Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen, today I am honored to come to present to you House Bill 220. Very passionate about this bill. What this bill concerns or deals with is of course, the title of it says relating to the intimidation of a sports official. Well, I personally think that word intimidation may be just a little soft. We have seen over the last few years, and it is progressively getting worse each and every year, of the aggressive action that is being taken toward referees, umpires, officials of our high school sports here in Kentucky, officials of our junior high sports, our little league sports, and also even on the collegiate level. I come to you and stand before you today as a former two-sport official here in the state of Kentucky for many, many years. Currently, I have not done that for a few years, but I'm still very passionate, and I stand up to speak today on behalf of those thousands of officials across the state of Kentucky, men and women, that are dropping out of the ranks of officiating at an all-time incredible high rate. In speaking, or in the committee meeting on this last week, the commissioner of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association sat by my side and testified on this measure, and he shared with the committee members that day that the numbers from approximately 5 years ago to now are 40% less in the high school officiating ranks here in Kentucky. So if you start equating those numbers to the amount of contests that we have here in this state, and I'm speaking predominantly about the high schools officiating, the high school sports, we are actually presently having contests that are having to be canceled, not because of COVID-related issues, not because of weather issues, but because of the lack of officials to officiate those games and those contests. The behavior has turned very aggressive in physical assaults, threats toward the family members of that official, threats toward that official's business, actually property damage to their vehicles, to their homes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about men and women that are going out there officiating a basketball or a football or a baseball or a soccer match or volleyball or whatever that match may be or that sport may be, and most of them for less than $100 per game. The gentleman from Boyle brought up a question in the committee meeting and asked this to the commissioner, if compensation was part of the problem of the ranks of people no longer being in officiating. I don't think that really is the problem. I would love to see a greater compensation, and basically the compensation for officials in Kentucky is not an across-the-board rate. That is set by the local boards or the local associations across the state. So there are differing compensation rates. Our collegiate officials that officiate collegiate games here in the state of Kentucky at our universities, even our NAIA schools, the smaller schools, they're compensated very well. They are. But I don't think that's the root of this problem. I think the problem is that we are seeing such aggressive behavior toward officials. I spoke last night, actually late yesterday afternoon, to some officials from the northern Kentucky area. I know I have several northern Kentucky colleagues here, and some of the officials from some of the associations in northern Kentucky were sharing with me how that their numbers in their officiating associations there were now so low that they were actually having to double up and sometimes do 2 games per night, maybe a game at 6 o'clock, a game at 8 o'clock. And they were doing 7 and 8 games per week, which was wearing out the ranks. So what's the solution? House Bill 220 actually states that anyone that would be charged with an intimidation of a sports official could be charged with a Class A misdemeanor. Of course, that is an offense that is punishable by fine or actually even some jail time. And some folks might say, well, that's taking this to a drastic level. But folks, ladies and gentlemen, there is data that supports exactly what I'm speaking to you about today. I, as a former official, and I know there's an official here in the body with us today, there's a former coach here, but I have seen these incidences get worse and worse and worse. I have personally witnessed escalations that went beyond some fan screaming at an official over a bad call, taking that to an entire different level of threatening that official's life or that official's children or that official's business. It's unbelievable of what we're seeing today that's happening. And I think all of us see it. We can witness it in our Little League games, the Pee Wee football games, the elementary games. It's unbelievable at the action that people are now are aggressively taking their frustrations out on an official. So, Mr. Speaker, I know I've talked too long already, and I'm about to wrap this up. But when that intent goes beyond just getting upset over a bad call, and we've all made bad calls. I made many bad calls. The gentleman that's here with me today, he's made more bad ones than I did. But anyway, we all make those bad calls. But when that is going beyond disrupting our daily lives, it's gone to another completely different level. And of course, one of the things that has been brought to my attention by some folks has said, well, Mr. Representative, there's already laws on the books that a person can be charged with an assault of an individual. And that's absolutely true. That is correct. But we're talking about something different here, that we're going to have to take action, or your kids or your grandkids, many of their games are not going to be played because there will not be people to actually cover and officiate those games. So, Mr. Speaker, I would be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any, but I would move for passage of House Bill 220, sir.